is All Things Ansys, a podcast from the technical support staff at PADT. Episode 113, the return of the All Things Ansys podcast, and a look at cool features in Ansys 2023 R1. Hi there. Well, it's been a while. We did episode 111 on May 17th, and then episode 112, which simply said we'll be taking a little break on June 28th of 2022. And I finished with, like I usually do, see you next time. And well, I didn't lie, but it's been a while. I did the math. That is 212 days. This episode will go out on the 26th of 2023, January 26th of 2023. So that's 212 days. That's over 6 months. So a little lesson here. If you ever do a podcast, one of the hardest things to do is put out regular episodes. And if you decide to take a vacation, and I'm doing air quotes here, it is really hard to get going again. Really hard. So I'd like to come up with an excuse. I got none. It's all on me. It was your typical, I'll do it next month, I'll do it next month, I'll do it next month, and 6 months came and went. Then at some point, I think in November, I said, well, I'll do it next year. And then January showed up. So here we are. We're back on track, and we'll be back doing these podcasts. And, here we are. A small bit of me hopes maybe you missed us a little bit. My name's Eric Miller. I'm one of the owners here at PADT. Longtime Ansys user. It's coming up on 37 years. In June of this year, it'll be 37 years. I'm a huge Ansys fanboy and your host for these podcasts when we do them. We're going to make a small change. It was very difficult to get them out every other week. So we're going to change it to be once a month. So we'll be doing one episode a month instead of two. So we'll have 12 a year. And Trevor Rubinoff, who is our marketing expert here at PADT and also the producer for these podcasts, he's got it all scheduled out. He's actually got the interviews scheduled. So we're going to be a little bit more proactive about doing these so that we don't get behind and don't feel overwhelmed. And we can give you the content that you've come to know and like and do it once a month. So anything exciting happen since we last talked? We'll go ahead. Some significant changes have happened in the Ansys world, and when we get to the news, we'll go over those. The good news is at PADT, we've had no big changes. As you'll hear in the next section where we'll have a little chat as a group chat, we've added staff since we last talked. Our technical support team just keeps growing as Ansys keeps acquiring products and we keep getting more customers. We keep adding folks to that team. So you'll get a chance to meet some of the new people. And that's been probably the biggest change that's happened in our Ansys world here at PADT. So not much else to report. So even though I'm consumed with guilt and want to make a lot more excuses and feel sorry for you for me being a bad host, I'm not going to yak about it anymore because it's not going to change anything. So let's move on to our group discussion. Oh, one last thing. Happy New Year. I can't believe it's 2023. I hope it's a great year for all of you, and we look forward to spending it with you again. So this episode, we'll go out on January 26th. That's the day when Ansys releases Ansys 2023 R1. We got 10 members of our support team together on January 13th. Yes, that was Friday the 13th, to talk about what they liked in the new release based upon the training that they've already had and some fiddling around they've had with some of the code that they were able to get before release. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves and what they liked and what they think is cool in the new release. So let's listen in to what they have to say. Well, I want to welcome our listeners back. We have not done this in a very long time since the podcast has taken a very extended vacation over the last months or so. And we thought that it'd be great to get back into things by having a discussion about yet a new version of Ansys. And here it is, January 2023. And we've got a new version of Ansys 2023 R1 coming out. And we've got a great collection of our folks in our technical support team. And we'll go ahead and get started. I'm gonna call your guys' names alphabetically by first name. And please share with our listeners, because some of you are new to PADT and new to the podcast, especially you. What you do here at PADT. So we'll go ahead and start. Ted may have to drop off the call, so we're going to go with Ted first.
Okay, thanks, Eric. So this is Ted Harris. I'm the director of our simulation support team here at PADT. So we're the team that provides support in our simulation software tools that we sell. So Ansys, and been a longtime user of Ansys products, both at PADT and before that. And really looking forward to uh, release 2023 R1, and we've had a little bit of a chance to install it and get to know it here at PADT, but we're really kind of just at the beginning. So I think each of us does have a highlight or two that we've looked at and at least are aware of, if we haven't had a chance to fully test it out yet, though. So for me, I wanted to talk about the Discovery products. So for people that aren't familiar with Discovery, that is a newer tool in the Ansys tool set. It probably first got people's attention about 5 or 6 years ago as something called Discovery Live, which was a very fast simulation tool that actually solves on the GPU instead of the CPU. So super fast solution. And over time, it has had an overhaul, I guess you'd say it, with a newer user interface, and it includes geometry prep tools. It includes that GPU solving capability, but it also includes the flagship solvers for mechanical and fluent. So it's more than just this quick, fast simulation tool. It's still that, but it also goes beyond that as well. So at 2023, an exciting enhancement that I saw is the ability to simulate rotating fluid zones. So we can now simulate things like fans, anything with rotating blades, impellers. And that's both in the Explore mode, which is the fast GPU solve, as well as in the Refine mode, which is the flagship solver mode. So if you haven't looked into Discovery, we strongly suggest that you take a look. It's a single window workflow for geometry prep, simulation, and post-processing of results. So that's my top thing, and I'll hand it back to Eric.
That's really good news, and I know that when it first came out, people really wanted to be able to do like a cooling fan, right, and see where the air went really quick and dirty, or maybe a room, right, and be able to model that the fan behavior and the ductwork and all that stuff. So that's awesome to see that they've got that in Discovery. Very, very cool. So Alex, you're up next. Tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and what you're excited about.
Sure. My name is Alex Moody. I'm an application engineer at PADT, and I support the high frequency electronics, so flagship tools like HFSS and SI Wave, for instance. And for me, there's one major change in 2023 R1 that I wanted to address today, because I foresee it may be causing some consternation amongst our users. I think in the long run, it's a good thing, but just in the short term, it might surprise some of our users here. And that's in the latest release, Electronics Desktop has officially migrated to the Parasolid geometry kernel. So for many years, yeah, it's something that's been in the works for a while, but this release is the official migration. So the ASYS kernel is no longer supported. And what that means for our users is, in the past, well, maybe I should explain why. They're bringing the Parasolid kernel to Electronics Desktop to bring EDT in line with the other ANSYS products that use this Parasolid kernel for their 3D geometry. And so that will make Electronics Desktop kind of more in line with the rest of the portfolio. And what it means is that if you open a design that was created in a previous version of EDT, and you open that with 2023 R1, the geometry in that previous design has to be converted to be compatible with the Parasolid kernel. But unfortunately, there's no guarantee that this conversion will succeed. And I've already actually had one user contact me just today saying that they had an issue opening a design in 2023 R1 and the geometry didn't convert. So the good news is that even if the conversion fails, Electronics Desktop creates a backup of your design, so it won't be corrupted. You won't lose anything. It'll create a folder in your project directory called ANSYS EM Backup, and the project will be there and it will be in its original version. So nothing will be lost. But the bad news is if the conversion fails, you only have two options, and they're not great options. One is you'd have to purge the modeler history of your existing design, and bring it in, and that'll be more likely to be successful, but you'll lose all of your parametric variables, all your parametric sweeps. And then option 2 is you have to completely redraw the design in 2023 R1, which for a complicated design could obviously be a lot of work. But in the long run, again, I feel like this will be a positive change. It'll be a more reliable, better supported kernel for 3D geometry. But in the short term, there might be a few growing pains where if people are bringing over existing geometry from older versions, they may have some issues. Right. Although they may not. I've heard that it's very successful usually at converting to geometry. So that was the point the big takeaway for electronics, I thought.
Well, we don't have cameras on, but I think Joe and Ted and myself are nodding our heads because we've been through this before. I think several times,
yeah,
Ted. I want to say we went from parasolids to Ansys kernel to parasolids in one product. So we hear you, we feel you, we sympathize with you. In the long run, it's going to be much better.
Yeah, definitely.
This transition thing. Yeah. Cool. Excellent. Chris, new to PADT, I think new to the podcast. Why don't you tell us our listeners about yourself and what you're excited about?
Yeah, I'm Chris Satani, and I joined PADT about 8 months ago. Previously, I'd been working for a medical device company, doing some remediation, and before that, I worked in a bioengineering lab at Northern Arizona University, working on medical device to occlude aneurysms. Cool. I don't have a ton of feedback on the updates, but my favorite update that I saw within the presentations was the parametric workflow embedded into the Fluent solver, which allows users to run through parameter tables within Fluent itself rather than doing that through Workbench. So I think that's a big usability value add to the workflow.
Definitely. I love seeing when they do stuff like that. Because sometimes you can save a lot of time. Well, thanks. Welcome to the podcast and welcome to PADT. Though you've been here a while, but welcome to the podcast. Christian.
Hey y'all, just like Chris, I'm pretty new to PADT as well. I'm joined back in October, so getting my feet wet with Ansys and PADT and learning a lot. So I'm an application support engineer here in the structural side. Before joining PADT, I actually worked in the tire industry, simulating tires, new designs, trying to make sure that they were working as intended, obviously. As far as the updates go, not having been Ansys user for a long time, I don't have a lot of pain points that I'm sure some of our longer time listeners have. But I was really interested in this geometry preserving adaptation that they are doing now. It seems, just like from the usability perspective, anytime we can get away from spending time meshing your problem, that's always great for actually getting results. And so it's cool to see that that's something they care about, and also that they're improving it now, where it's not just bisecting your elements to get a deeper mesh. It's actually using your original geometry and refining it based on that, not just what your mesh was. So I don't know. I thought that was pretty cool. Hope to see more stuff like that in future updates too. That just helps the usability of the software for everyone.
Cool. And it's okay to mention the code you used before, because I think that's of value to our customers if they are making the transition as well.
Yeah, mostly Abacus, and then some proprietary solvers as well within the company.
So if you, like Christian, are making the transition from the evil, dark Abacus code that maybe your your professor forced you to use in college, to the modern and fun and exciting and better looking Ansys code, we can help. One of the reasons why we're very excited about having him on our staff is helping our customers understand the differences between, all joking aside, very good piece of software. There are differences between the two codes, and you do have to use them a little bit differently. And having somebody that understands both has been a real positive for our customers. So, welcome aboard.
Thank you,
Cynthia. I can't remember if we had you on the podcast before we went on vacation or not.
I don't think so. This is my very first time.
Very first time. Well, welcome to the podcast. And why don't you explain your favorite new thing?
Yeah, so my name is Cynthia De La Rosa. I started early last year. I am the optics engineer and the application engineer for the optical products. So that includes Ansys Speos and Ansys ZMax. Within ZMax, of course, we have Optics Builder, Optics Studio, and then the Star module, which is now within Optics Studio Enterprise. And then we are slowly but surely getting familiar with the photonics package as well, which is numerical. So what I'm excited about, and I'm sure everyone else is excited about, is the integration of ZMax into the Ansys world. I think that's a pretty big deal. It can go a ton of different ways. We've already seen the integration into the Ansys mechanical world with the Star module. And so, of course, in 2023, Ansys is going to continue to push that with enhancements within the Star module. But we also have the interoperability between ZMax Optics Studio and Lumerical. And so this is going to take into account sub-wavelength dynamic links. And so currently in the 2023 release, there's actually a dynamic link where if you have Lumerical within the same workstation, ZMax Optics Studio will automatically do a calculation with Lumerical without having to actually open the Lumerical application. And so that's going to create a lot more benefit, a lot more accurate data for Optics Studio that comes from Lumerical. So we're excited about that. We're also excited about all the work that's being done with Speos. That does not just include Optics Studio, that also includes Lumerical. We're seeing a lot of workflows coming out from the Ansys team that include all three or all four, the fourth one including mechanical. So, the sky's the limit with this acquisition, and we're excited to push forward on optics within Ansys.
That is really exciting stuff, and we talked a lot about the acquisition when it was happening, and it's so great. You'll notice we have a lot of people on the podcast, and one of the reasons is because Ansys keeps acquiring folks, and we're bringing in people like Cynthia who are domain experts, and unfortunately, one of our other engineers who's an embedded systems programming expert, David Dugan. I always do that. And it's so great to bring this domain expertise to the table and get your guys' input on these products. My ancient structural thermal brain is learning a lot from you guys, and we really appreciate it. So excited to see these integrations and things coming. Fantastic stuff. Joe, what about yourself? Did you find anything new to talk about? And introduce yourself as well.
Yeah, this is Joe Woodward. I've been on here several times. I've been with PADT for 21 years now, Chief Engineer of Simulation Support. Just kind of going through the list, I've found quite a few things. I think the biggest catch that I saw was the geometry-based associativity. Kind of goes along with the geometry preserving adaptivity. But the geometry-based associativity says, okay, I've updated my geometry, and I have a bunch of name selections in there or a lot of loads. If the surface numbering has changed in the CAD, then in the past that would blow up all the name selections and everything. With the geometry base, they're looking at, okay, there's a flat surface at this location. The numbering's different, but we're going to put the load on that surface, and it keeps everything where it should on the new geometry file. Plus, then it'll give you a table of everything that it's looking at to show you, this surface is a little bit different, but it's in the same place, so we're pretty sure that it goes on, type of thing. So you can look down through this list and see what needs to be changed, or maybe they couldn't find a match, then you can reapply those. So it helps you quickly go through and update your geometry changes and things without having to go back and redo all of your loading and things like that. So that was a really cool one that they've added in.
Is this something we've been asking for a very long time? I want to say
Yes.
that Matt and I wrote a paper on, not a paper, a email, a strongly worded email to development, maybe, gosh, years and years ago, asking for something like this, because when you're doing optimization, boy, when that topology changes, when the numbers change on the surfaces, it breaks. This is wonderful. Yeah.
Right.
Very cool. Excellent. See, they're working. If you ever question what your text money is going to on some of these products that have been around for decades, this kind of stuff they're doing. So it's pretty cool. Pretty good. Josh, what about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Josh Stout. I'm a support and application engineer here at PADT. I just passed my 3-year mark, so
Yay.
been around for a little bit at this point. If you've been paying attention to webinars this year, you're probably tired of my voice already. But I work for TED, and I fill a system support role technically. My background is in mechanical engineering, though, so I have a lot of overlap with things like thermal integrity and electronics reliability. So there are a few things related to that in this release that I think are particularly noteworthy. The first is something in electronics IcePack, electronics desktop IcePack. And it's something that I have really appreciated that ANSYS, they're trying to make thermal analysis very accessible to non-thermal engineers. That's kind of the main theme there. So they have improved some more things, even more so this year, where you can actually automatically create an IcePack analysis from an electronics analysis. So for users who might be familiar with the way SI-Wave does it right now, there's IcePack functionality kind of built into it where it generates a domain and some boundary conditions based on pretty decent assumptions, but I mean, they're rough assumptions, but it's enough to get you started with a thermal analysis anyway. But you didn't used to be able to do that for tools like Maxwell or HFSS or Q3D. You could always copy the geometry over, but then you'd have to set everything up manually, and you'd need a little bit of knowledge to get started there. Well, now there's actually a menu option where if you start with a Maxwell or an HFSS model, you can say basically export to a new project, and then you choose IcePack or mechanical thermal, and it will make those baseline assumptions for you. It'll set up the entire model. It'll create it in the electronics desktop project tree, and off you go. So it's a great way to get started with a new model. Just making those initial assumptions, cutting down on the time needed. So I'm really interested to see how that works and see how many of our customers make use of it.
Agreed. That's really encouraging. And it's funny because we kind of ran into that the other day when visiting one of our space companies, talking with an electrical engineer who needed to deal with thermal issues in his model. And it's a different language, right? And so the fact that these tools are becoming available for him to just swap over his model is going to be, and he doesn't have to throw over the wall anymore, which is great.
Yeah. But I mean, even aside from that, it's not like they're dumbing down the tools either.
No, not at all.
They continue to add more advanced functionality on the background. So, advanced users who need that kind of stuff, they can keep getting more detailed analyses at this point. So it's really nice to see the balance.
Yep, agreed. I'm excited about it. And sometimes now that we're back doing this again, we need to sit down and talk about thermal desktop. And that acquisition and what that means from a system simulation standpoint, because I'm very excited about that.
For sure.
Yeah. But still early days. Miles, how are you doing? Share yourself, what you're doing, everything. Yeah.
Yep. So I'm Miles Adkins. I'm a technical lead for our FlowNext team here at PADT. I've been at PADT for about 4 years now, I want to say. And I primarily deal with thermal fluid kind of network solves. And I get into some of the ANSYS products, Fluent and mechanical. But what I'm most excited about, I'm kind of going to copy Cynthia a little bit, that just it's really cool to see the integrations between the different tools. And as we're kind of observing industry trends, more and more the kind of design workflows are moving to kind of system level simulation where different teams are simulating different parts of an overall system. And, ANSYS is building these kind of feedback loops where the tools can talk to each other. So you can do, your 1D thermal fluid solves with like a tool like Flownex and do 3D thermal transport and mechanical. And where you have more complex fluid dynamics, you can use a tool like Fluent and have it all run at the same time, or use reduced order models and parent tools like Twin Builder to build those system level models. So really excited to see how these tools kind of interact in the next year and forward.
Definitely, for sure. That's good news. That's so good. And I'm glad we have such a diverse team, because keeping track of this is getting hard. There's so many good things coming out so quickly. It's great. Robert McCatherine.
All right, I'm Rob McCatherine. I work on the MBU side as an application engineer, so I'm helping out with simulation support and a little bit of helping pre-sales side too. My background is in ocean engineering. I did that for almost over a decade, whatever it is. Mainly just ship structures and all sorts of stuff, waves and wind and fun things. So from that perspective, I'm mainly handling the mechanical side and then also discovery. And I also work on the Granta Ansys's materials software. So with that, I'm going to talk about probably two, maybe three things, really quick.
Mm-hmm.
So first off, I'll start with discovery. And one thing that I've been paying attention to as a structural guy on the discovery side are, kind of improvements to on the Explorer mode with the, accuracy of that in terms of thin bodies. That's kind of been an issue in the past, and it's gotten much, 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 much better over subsequent releases, to the point where, they're kind of one-to-one matching classical results or results that they would see in refined mode, depending on what you're looking at with that. So they have a good example of hey, we have this detergent dispenser kind of a thing, and how are we matching deflections with this? So it's kind of one-to-one there. Additionally, one thing I like that is the a contact / connection assessment. So you're looking at the introduced bolts a couple of years ago into discovery, and kind of bolt checks, things like that. So now you have a kind of based on AISC rules bolt check. So you're looking at it from shear, tensile, factor of safety, and they've got a similar feature for bonded contacts where you can kind of put in your own riggers for that, and it'll display an FOS and whatever you need for there. So that's kind of a nice internal check, because we've had a couple customers ask for that one. On the Granta side, there's really more of a big improvement in terms of how the kind of higher end features are working their way into lower kind of tier products. So you have Selector, and the MI side, you have MI Pro, MI Enterprise, and MI is Materials Intelligence. It's really there for you're cataloging all your own data. You're trying to spread that out across your organization and have a PLM for it. So you're making sure different departments are using the same thing. And MI Pro is kind of the introductory step into that. It's mainly geared toward engineering drafting departments, and it's really focused on folks that are doing their own tests, trying to log that data. Well, one improvement that was in MI Enterprise that was not in MI Pro until this release is the material calibration app. So what this does is it takes your test data, and then you get to pick and choose which models you want to have it fit in, so which nonlinear material models, et cetera, for ANSYS. And so it will generate all the data required for plugging that in directly to ANSYS. And again, you get all the curve fitting tools, things like that. So that's a really nice, it's almost George Jetson-ish. Now it works as just click a button, Mr. Spacely, and there you go. And on the mechanical side, I'm going to mention this just from being an, a ocean engineer, PE naval arc in a previous life, is that Aqua has had some pretty good visual improvements in terms of being able to reproduce irregular wave Cs, things like that. So typically you'd have a nice kind of rolling wave through it, but now you can actually produce something visually looks like a C state. You can control color palettes, resolutions, all sorts of stuff. So I just looked at that and was going crazy over it. And then from another standpoint with Aqua is that you can actually this is an offshoot of the improvements made to mechanical, I believe, in the past couple releases, where you can just freely rotate bodies, mechanical change orientation here and there. They're doing the same thing in Aqua. So if you have your vessel in one place, you can actually rotate it in the program without having to, re-import geometry. So, and everything sticks together. So it's, again, that geometric associativity, everything's staying there. And so it doesn't break any downstream parametric studies. So there's been some significant improvements kind of across the board, a lot of quality of life stuff.
Yeah. And of course, I haven't really looked at that product in a few years, but the user interface reminded me of user interfaces from before some of our new employees were born. So I'm glad to see that they've made improvements to the Aqua product. So
yeah. It seems like all the little programs that were outside of the regular Aqua window, and I've spoken to the devs of Aqua, is like they're trying to make everything integrated in. So now you don't have to have that. So I'm glad to see that kind of happening across the board with the Ansys products.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And there's nothing wrong with the graphics in the old system. It just looked old. And, and it didn't have these features you're talking about, these newer capabilities that more modern graphics have. So exciting stuff. That's really good to see that. Good. Sina, what can you share about yourself, and then also what you're excited about?
Sure. Yeah, I'm Sina Goetz. I'm a senior CFD application engineer. I'm with PADT more than 5 years now. And obviously long-term Ansys user during my previous job and grad studies. So I think 15 plus years of Ansys usage. I'm going to briefly talk about some of the exciting new features in 2023 for the Fluent and other Fluid products from Ansys. I think Ted did a great job covering the GPU usage. As he mentioned, the GPU expansion is not only for a designer tool like Discovery, but we're talking about Fluent, which is the flagship tool for CFD flagship tool for Ansys. So they're expanding the GPU capabilities there. Python is a big thing. They call it PyFluent. So they're expanding the usage and integration of Python inside Fluent, or as I said, call it PyFluent. There's going to be new embedded PyConsole as a beta feature, bringing PyFluent directly into the Fluent interface. And also there will be support for centralized Python journaling inside Fluent. So they're expanding that. The other thing I want to mention is basically expanding the integration of other physics beyond fluid mechanics into the Fluent. And one of them is, as Josh mentioned, is the electronics. And for Fluent, there would be a direct ECAD workflow for PCBs, for example, that we can import ECADs directly from the Fluent interface without using other tools. And another exciting, again, other physics beyond fluid mechanics would be the like optical, new optical built-in arrow optical workflow that actually captures the aberrations effects in Fluent, and it's really cool. It's a beta feature, but within this new workflow, you can actually visually see the optical effects of the flow, which is, again, really cool. I've seen some of the pictures, post-process pictures. And hydrogen is obviously a big thing these days. They're expanding the models for hydrogen value chain. There are new models for production and consumption. So, new exciting features and GPU, Python, other physics, and hydrogen, I would say, at the very top level. Yeah, high level.
I shouldn't just ask you a blind question because I didn't let you know beforehand, but anything in hypersonics new in this release?
Oh yeah. They're also there will be the GUI access to high speed numerics, HSN, and automation and convergence best practices within the Fluent Arrow. Definitely the density based numerical solver is always, it's been like last few years, it's getting huge updates each release, and this next one is not an exception yet.
That's good to see it's moving forward. As
Yep.
most of our listeners probably know, that there's a significant effort in the hypersonics area, and Fluent is keeping up with it, which is wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good. Tom, are you on? He texted us and said that the cable guy was there.
Yeah, I was able to stay on.
Good. Okay.
Using my cell phone.
If you drop off, we know why. Go ahead.
Yes. So I was going to say, you kind of stole my thunder. One of the things was the hypersonics.
Sorry.
So they're doing a lot of improvements to hypersonics in terms of the stability and the accuracy of the solution. But one of the other really cool things is a new acquisition that Ansys just made this year, just announced like a week ago, is the Rocky tool.
All right.
And Rocky has making significant improvements both in the speed and power of their GPU solver, as well as capability for modeling really complex things like like a boat being released into the water, and the waves, and the particle release from something splashing into the water.
Wow.
Some really cool stuff. I mean, a car driving through water in terms of the splash that happens as the car hits the water, and just a lot of other capability, and really looking forward to see how over the course of this year, the progress on integrating Rocky with Fluent and the other tools, the mechanical tools, because it can handle, it can transfer loads from the, from a fluid interaction and a particle interaction with solid objects. Now you can transfer those loads, those particle interaction loads, to a mechanical model and model the structural deformation and stress due to those particle impacts.
So I can throw rocks and see what happens.
Yeah, well, you can model the stress of say farming equipment, tilling equipment, digging through the dirt,
mining
equipment, and model the stress and the effects of that on the solid structure.
Wow, something we've been looking for quite some time. That's fantastic. Yeah. And another future topic, it might be good to get Hari on and talk about how some of that stuff works really well in LS-DYNA, and some of that stuff works really well in Rocky, and kind of the difference between the two. It's a growing topic. Very cool. All right, that is everybody I have on the list. Does anybody have anything that they want to bring up that we didn't get a chance to get to?
I see several more things in the mechanical, so we may have to have just a mechanical update.
We may come back.
Here in a
We may come back and do that. Yeah, we'll definitely do that. Well, it's been a real pleasure to do this again. Like I said, it's been a while. And the new people, it's fantastic to have you join us and give your opinion. And to our listeners, as you can tell, we've got a lot of experienced people that are knowledgeable in these things, and what they love to do is answer your questions. If you've got an application you're wondering about, you got a feature that we mentioned or we didn't mention, and you got questions about it, want to learn more about it, check out our website. We redid the website, and also just reach out to info@padtinc.com or give us a call, and we'll help you out. So thanks everybody. Happy Friday, and we'll do this again a lot sooner than last time.
All right, great.
Cool. Thanks.
Bye.
Sounds good. Thanks, Eric.
Cheers. Bye.
Have a good one.
All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. I have to admit, it was fun to get back together and chat about Ansys things. I do miss that part of the podcast, and I learned, of course, as always, things from the team, and hopefully you got a chance to meet some of the new members. It was really nice to hear from them, and we've got so many new products and features coming in the Ansys and from Ansys in both the old and the new products. It's pretty cool to see everything that's going on. As always, we recommend you read through the release notes in the documentation for the products that you do use to get an in-depth look at what is new in each release. There's usually also a beta section, so you can try out some new things. And if you have any problems downloading the latest release, have any questions, or run any problems, contact your Ansys support provider. Hopefully that's PADT, but if not, just go ahead and reach out to them, and they're more than happy to help you, as are we, with getting it installed and answering any questions you have about new issues and new capabilities and the new releases. So I always feel like we don't say enough good things about the developers at Ansys. They've been very busy over the last many years, well, for the 30-some years that I've been using it, and they just always keep adding new features and new capabilities, and it's great to see. So for our commercial today, I want to talk about training with PADT. So while we were away, while the podcast was away, we actually did quite a bit of training. Yes, you can use the Ansys online training. I think it's called the Learning Center. Yeah, and we highly recommend you always start there. It's a great resource. It's a great way to learn a new tool. It's a great way to get refreshed on a new tool. But more and more of our customers are finding custom training led by the very people you just heard from and their coworkers as a great way to really learn the products better. We do it over Microsoft Teams or WebEx. We can do it on site as well, but most of the customers prefer to do it virtually. And you get the benefit of interacting with a live instructor. Our customers feel they learn more, they get up to speed faster, and they avoid issues and mistakes because of the interaction in the class with our instructors. Tips and hints, avoid this. One time I did it like this and this happened. It's really great. And when you use it on your own real problems, which is kind of nice when you're doing these custom classes, you can bring in your own files, then you get really beyond normal training. The customers really enjoy it. So reach out today to swsupport@padtinc.com or give us a call at 480-813-4884. Joe Woodward, who you heard on the podcast, would be more than happy to talk to you about it and arrange something. And the feedback we're getting from our customers that did it last year in 2022 is it's an investment they don't regret, and they're going to do it again. All right, let's dig into the news. And, let's start with the Ansys stock. I'm sure no one who's an investor in the market in general wanted to look at any stock, let alone ANSS, over the last 6 months. In general, actually last year, it's not been good. On May 17th, it was the last time we really talked about the stock. It closed at $252.94 a share. Well, it didn't get better from there. It actually hit rock bottom, not rock bottom because it's been far lower, but a recent low at $194.23 on October 11th. Today's a federal holiday. I'm recording this on the 16th of January, and happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day for those of you who are in the U.S. And it got worse. Go back. Today's federal holiday, so the last close we had was on the 13th. And it was $254.10. So funny enough, remember it was $252 in May, and it's $254 now. When it comes to stock markets, that's pretty much the same number. So look, nothing happened. As long as you held on to your stock, you didn't lose any money. So you didn't miss anything while we were gone. So therefore, I don't feel so bad about taking a long vacation from the podcast. The good news is the price did recover a bit in November and has been steady in the 240 to 250 range since. It's pretty much followed the S&P 500 through the whole thing. Let's take a look at 2022 and see how it did relative for the whole year. And of course, they started the year really high, right? It started at 395.49, near an all-time high, and it kind of worked its way down to that 194 back in October. So yeah, you do the math. You don't have to use a calculator. That's half. It's a 50% drop. But since then, it recovered to 241.59 in December at the end of the year, at December 30th at the end of the year. And so that's a 39% loss for the year. And the S&P 500 was down 20%. So a little bit worse than the average, but tech stocks in general didn't do well in 2022, and Ansys was part of that. So you go up with tech stocks and you go down with tech stocks. In comparison, Altair and Autodesk, which are close competitors, Autodesk not so much, but Altair direct competitor, they almost ended up exactly the same as Ansys for the year. The only company that I follow that's kind of in the industry is PTC. They're more They're more other stuff than simulation, but they're a good bellwether. The stock market likes to pay attention to them. They were actually flat for the year. They in 2022 they went up 1.25%. So any stock that didn't lose in 2022 is a good stock. So congratulations to the PTC folks. Ansys is going to release their earnings in February, and we will cover them in the February podcast. So we look forward to seeing. I think it's been a good year from a sales standpoint. As I always say, I don't understand how the investors decide where a stock's going to go up or down. What I know is our customers love this product and they keep buying more of it. So I don't know. Okay, Ansys News. Lots to report here. You can always go to the Ansys News page to learn more. Here's some top stuff. We finished off in the last podcast by talking about the acquisition of Motor Design Limited. So that's the MotorCAD product, adding that to portfolio. That was a partnership that Ansys had, and when they went ahead and acquired Motor Design. It's now being integrated more tightly into the Ansys family. So with all the electric vehicle stuff and electric airplanes and electric helicopters and things like that, we're seeing a big demand for better motor simulation. So this would be great to integrate that into our tool set, even tighter than it was before. Then in June, Ansys announced a partnership with Softenway to couple Softenway's turbo machinery design tool with Ansys Fluent in Mechanical. So this is not the first tool. We've had folks on the podcast from competitive tools, but there's a whole host of third-party products that help you design turbo machinery. Softenway is one of them, and now they're partnered with Ansys. So I think it's the third or the fourth tool set that's out there that does that. So pretty good if you're doing turbo machinery. You got some great choices, and reach out to us. We have our favorites in there. A cool release in July that press release that Ansys did talked about, I really enjoyed this one, how NASCAR used Ansys LS-DYNA to ensure safety of their next-gen car race. So the reason why that was really important to me is I used to be a really big race fan. I got up at 2 o'clock in the morning, watch Formula One. IndyCar was my favorite series. I would go to races here in Phoenix when people were in town. And then 2 of my favorite drivers were killed in accidents and because the cars just weren't safe enough. And to see them use Ansys LS-DYNA to improve the safety in the next generation cars and set standards for the manufacturers on what those cars can and can't do so that the drivers are safe makes me feel a bit better. And maybe I'll start watching again. I know it kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. It's been decades, but maybe I'll get back into it. In August, other news, Ansys was certified by something called the Best Practice Institute as a most loved workplace. And then a few months later in October, Newsweek did the same thing. They gave them a similar award for being a fantastic place to work. So obviously they're doing something right. Not only do they put out good software and keep improving the code, but it seems like people like to work there. So great news there. Congratulations to the Ansys team, the HR team for really working hard at that. Also in August, this is a really important one, maybe one of the most important ones in this news list here, this long list of things we missed while we were on vacation. AMD and Ansys announced a collaboration to speed up Ansys mechanical structural by 6x. That's what the headline reads. What is it really about? Well, as you should know, we've been putting in the code to make Ansys solvers solve much, much faster on GPUs from NVIDIA. And now AMD has a GPU called the AMD Instinct Accelerator, or accelerators, and that's their brand of GPUs, and Ansys is compiling to use those. So look for more information on that. You have a choice on GPUs. When you're speccing out new systems, do take a look. We find adding 1 or 2 GPUs, depending on what kind of solvers you're using, to be a real time saver. So check that out. Really good news for those of us that run big models. We're really excited about that. Something else that's kind of, for those of us who have been around for a while, is a real win is, and PADT's been pushing for these two to get together for, 15, 20 years, maybe 20 years now. Ansys finally acquired CNR technology and their industry standard thermal tool for space systems, Thermal Desktop. So if you don't know Thermal Desktop, it's a heat transfer tool that does really good radiation and does orbital mechanics and puts the sun load into your model, so you can get the heating from the sun as you do your mission. You fly your satellite around the Earth or put your space station around the moon, whatever you're doing. It's a wonderful tool. It is the industry standard. It's many of our customers had to use it and Ansys for doing other stuff. Now it's all going to be part of the same family. We're really excited about that. Of course, integration with the AGI tools, right, which is kind of orbital mechanics on steroids, the mission simulation tools from AGI that Ansys acquired a few years ago, integrating those in as well. Best in class capability of doing thermal management in space. I can't say enough good things about it. Something that's not in the press releases that us insiders are really excited about is Ansys has never had a finite difference thermal solver, right? We did for a little while, but it didn't quite work out. So Ansys Mechanical is great. It does wonderful things, but sometimes there's advantages to a finite difference solver, and especially when you're doing large systems and you want to really simplify them. We're really excited about getting this best-in-class Cinda solver that's inside the thermal desktop product as part of the Ansys suite. So lots more to come there. Know the folks at CNR, always been huge fans of theirs, wonderful human beings, great tool, win all across the board. Also in October, Ansys and AWS, Amazon Web Services, I use that word AWS so much I forgot what it stood for, announced a new product called Ansys Gateway, powered by AWS. So this is their latest addition to the Ansys Cloud. You can run on multiple cloud servers, and this is their AWS solution. And we're loving it here at PADT. It's worked quite well for us. We beta tested it, and we've been using it since it was released. And we're definitely going to try and talk about it in a future podcast. So there's a lot to talk about there. If you're not using Ansys Cloud, you should be taking a look at it. It really is becoming a great way to solve problems. When you can't run it on your desktop machine, it's really easy to solve in the cloud now, and affordable. So definitely going to talk about that more. Check it out. Good stuff. The final acquisition of 2022 was the purchase of a company called Dynamore. So if you know the LS Dyna world, you know that Dynamore was not just an LS Dyna distributor in Germany. They were one of the best consulting companies out there for automotive crash and metal forming. Really good company. They also have tools that they wrote, kind of add-ons on top of LS Dyna or plugins to LS Dyna, and there's a whole bunch of them, but the most important one is something that is their human body modeling tool. So LS Dyna doesn't have one built in, they have third-party ones. So the Dynamore product, industry standard. So if you're doing automotive or aerospace and you need to put in a human body, this tool is now part of the Ansys family rather than going to a third party. So it's going to be even more tightly integrated, better access. Not to mention that we're getting some of the best Ansys or LS Dyna users in the world with this acquisition of Dynamore. So welcome to the family, to the Dynamore team. If my German was better, I would say it in German, but everyone will just laugh at me. So that's the big stuff since we last talked in May of 2022 for 2022. But 2023 had a big announcement already. Here we are just halfway through the month and we had a huge announcement. Ansys acquired Rocky DEM. We've talked about Rocky DEM on the podcast before. It's a product written by our wonderful friends and fellow channel partners down in South America, and actually all of Latin America. They cover all of Latin America. ESSS, they're out of Brazil. But they have offices all across Latin America, and they wrote this tool a couple of years ago. Maybe coming up on 10, I can't remember. It's a fantastic discrete element modeling tool. So when you've got like rocks or particles or sand and all this stuff, even water sometimes, it's just a fantastic tool for modeling those sort of things. It's a best-in-class. Rocky DEM has grown to become the best-in-class tool for discrete element modeling. And so they've been integrated with Ansys. Of course, they're an Ansys reseller. Now the Rocky DEM team is part of Ansys. So we're really happy to have this tighter integration. It was already about as close as you can get without being part of the company. Now it's part of the company. So the other kind of fringe advantage of this is the first real acquisition of a South American company by Ansys. So, as Ansys becomes more and more global, they have development offices all around the world and now have one in Brazil, which is fantastic. So, welcome to the family, even tighter than you were before. So, you take 6 months off and a lot happens. There were probably about 5 to 6 announcements, didn't count them, about major partnerships around modeling of antennas and other electromagnetic stuff, as well as a whole slew of really important announcements if you model semiconductors. So this is the Apache product family. We don't really talk about it a lot on the podcast, but people like TSMC and Intel and I think Panasonic had an announcement with Ansys. Lots of standardization, lots of becoming the kind of the standard tool for virtually verifying chips and things before they go into production. So really, really cool stuff in that world as well. That's the highlights of the Ansys news since we last talked. PADT has had a busy year. We've been super busy, which is kind of an excuse for being gone. But I only got 3 major announcements that are worth that are kind of in general worth sharing out here. You don't really care about the fact that I got a new chair in my desk. We launched the Ansys FlowNext user forum on our website. I may have actually talked about that in the last podcast. It was coming out. So it is out, it's being used. Users of the FlowNext software tool, that's a tool that PADT sells in North America. That's a thermal fluid systems modeling tool. It's a forum for them, for everybody in the world. And it's tips and hints and answer questions and ask questions. And it's a great collaborative community for FlowNext users. So check that out. It's at padtinc.com/FlowNext forum. I haven't done this in a while, so I'm a little tongue twisted. We also announced a couple of new printers in the PADT 3D printing services area. So just so people know, I know you're Ansys users, but if you ever need some 3D printing done, we're your best resource for that. Really, everything you know is for Ansys. We do in the 3D printing world as well. So earlier we added a couple different. We added an F900 and a Fortis 450. These are large FDM machines, Polymer FDM machines. We also added, I think, the Stratasys J55 since last time we talked. But since we talked, we added the new Stratasys SLA machine, large stereolithography machine, the Neo 450. We also went from beta to production on the new Stratasys H350 machine. That's a thermal powder bed system. It basically binds the powder using heat rather than a laser. And then we added a Stratasys Origin 1. That's a projection-based stereolithography machine. Beautiful parts come out of that machine. It's fantastic. We added a larger polyjet machine, a full-color polyjet machine, the J850, and a two non-Stratasys machines, a photocentric LC Magna. So that's a lot like that Origin 1. It's a projection-based, so the projector's underneath and it projects up into the vat that way. Stereolithography machine. But what we like about this one is the material choice, that they work with BASF on the materials, but also it's one of the largest build areas of any of these projection machines. So we love that. And then I think we did talk about this in a previous podcast. It's not that new, maybe a year ago. We added the EOS M290 large metal 3D printer. So we do quite a bit of metal 3D printing and use the Ansys simulation products for additive manufacturing to help make better parts and help our customers get better parts out of their EOS machines using simulation as well. So lots of new 3D printers there. Then in January of this year, we officially launched our new website. Now, if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you know we've been telling you about the new website for over a year, but it wasn't really done. There were sections of it that weren't finished. Well, it's officially done at the end of 2022. We put a bow on it. We put it out there. We did a press release. It's officially finished. If you have not been to our web in a long time, go to www.padtinc.com and check it out. If you go there, like a lot of people do in the Ansys world for our blogs, those are all still there, all the way back to our original focused newsletters, that were sent out in email, that Rod Scholl did when he worked here, and those are still there, and it's still downloaded. I was looking at statistics at the end of the year, and people are still using the content from, I don't know, gosh, that's 15 some years ago. So still useful information there. Do check out that new website. And speaking of publications, I'm not going to talk about usually in this podcast. I picked my 3 favorite articles from the Ansys blog. It's too many since the last time we talked, so I'm gonna chicken out and just talk about what they published between now and the next February podcast. in our blog, we have a couple things I want to note. We published a lot, but one that I really want to highlight is Alex Christian, who's a common visitor on this podcast. He published 3 articles on using Python called PyAnsys. It's the Ansys Python extensions are called, the family is called PyAnsys, and they've got it there. Each extension has its own PY something or other name. So he's been working on a tool for a NASA contract that we have that uses Python and has been sharing what he's learning as he goes. So there's been 3 of those published. They were by far the most popular articles in 2022 that we published. If you're interested in, using Ansys as a solver for your own models, doing your own post-processing in Python, connecting the Ansys solver to another product, really getting in there. In the past, you've been able to customize the user interface in Ansys Mechanical. This gets into the guts of Mechanical APDL, as well as other products. Alex is talking about the Ansys Mechanical and Mechanical APDL, but it can get into other products as well. Really amazing application programmer interface, API. Do check out those articles. Really important stuff to know and to leverage for your company. Second on the popularity list for ANSYS-related publications is our very own Cynthia De La Rosa, who you met on the interview today. She's been educating us on optics. So I know that sometimes it's frustrating, a bunch of fluids and mechanical, electromagnetic people, but to really do a bad dad pun, we're starting to see why she likes these products so well. She's put a good focus on the optical products from Ansys. I warned you. Couple really nice articles looking at what ZMAX is, what Speos is, and how to connect them, how to connect Speos and ZMAX, how to connect Ansys and ZMAX, Ansys Mechanical and ZMAX. So really useful things as these optics tools that Ansys is acquiring get more integrated in the Ansys world. And we look forward to even more from her in the future. So I found that really useful. Also of note, Nathan Huber continued his series on drag on top of his Subaru wagon, which he actually took to go skiing in Colorado this past weekend, he just told me. And there's been this debate of whether it's ski tips forward or ski tips back, and he used Ansys CFD to answer that question. You had to read the article to see what the answer is. And then he ran into some professional skiers who I don't know who they are, but ski people tell me they're really famous folks, and got into the same discussion with them. And one of them, he name dropped the guy, asked about the box he uses to carry his skis in that's on top of his Subaru. And so, of course, Nathan went in and used CFD to answer that question. So check out that article to find out that answer. That's been a really popular one as well. And then Doug did a really useful post on getting symmetrical meshes in Ansys Mechanical. So if you have symmetrical geometry, you want your mesh to be symmetrical about the cut plane or the mid plane, he shows you how to do that. And it's part of his Hold My Beer series, which is quite funny as usual with Doug, but also very useful. And then Josh Stout did one of the more informative articles I've read about what is OptiSlang and how to use it, which is another acquisition of Ansys in the last year or two that is used to do optimization and control things. So really cool stuff. So bottom line, our technical support staff has been doing their job creating useful content while I was ignoring the podcast. We do have upcoming events-wise. We've got some webinars scheduling. Trevor's going to give me that schedule, and we'll talk about that in the next podcast. Events for PADT. Actually, this is coming out the 26th, so we've actually got 4 events next week. We're going to be at VFS 2023 here in Mesa, Arizona, which is the Autonomous and Electric Vertical Takeoff and Landing Symposium. So this is basically flying cars. It's part of the Helicopter Association of America, or International Helicopter Association, I can't remember which. That's the 24th, 25th, and 26th of January, and we're going to be at that show. We have 2 people at that show. Then TIPE 3D Printing 2023, which is basically an online 3D printing conference put on by Women in 3D Printing and the SME to talk about all things 3D printing, is the 24th and 25th and 26th, and that's online as well. And our very own Pam Waterman is going to be doing 3 different sessions during that. I'm going to be down in Tucson, Arizona at the Arizona Photonics Days, the 24th, 25th, 26th, and 27th, which has also got a Tech Council event on the 26th that I'll be at. So hope to see some of you down there at that. And Cynthia will be joining me as well, since it's optics, for at least one of those days. And we'll also be sending a couple people from PADT to attend the inaugural 3D printing user group meeting in Utah. I can't actually, I looked it up, I couldn't figure out what the title was of that event. They're still getting their feet underneath them, but that's on the 26th as well. Very busy day. We'll have 4 different events that we'll have PADT people at. But if you're in Utah, I highly recommend you check that out, although it'll probably be too late by the time you hear this podcast. But the next one, we'll promote it when we know when it's going to be. Coming up event-wise, PADT will be at IME West, which used to be called the Pacific Design Show, and MD&M West. It's now called IME West. It's in Anaheim at the Convention Center there, February 7th and 9th. We will be in our usual spot. We usually have a booth there, and we will again this year. And then I'm doing 2 presentations in the conference. One of them on the work that Alex Christian has been doing with a cool new optimization algorithm that he's developed as part of that NASA contract. And then I'll also be talking about workforce development in 3D printing. So if you are in Southern California or want to go to that event and you need some discount on your tickets for the conference, would like to get some expo tickets to walk the booths, which is a wonderful full day event. Definitely takes a full day to walk all those booths. Go ahead and email us and we can hook you up. Then, the only other event that we have on the calendar so far is April. We will be at the Arizona Space Industry booth at the Space Symposium in Colorado Springs, one of my favorite events of the year. So cool to be there with everybody doing both commercial and government space and military space as well. It's a fantastic event, and that's in April in Colorado Springs, and we'll be in the Arizona Space Industry booth. And that went a little long because we had a lot of catching up to do, but I want to thank you and really appreciate you sticking with us and getting back into listening to podcasts. We hope you continue to listen for a long time in the future. And don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter so you can follow what's going on in the rest of PADT besides the podcast at www.padtinc.com/opt-in. Spread the word about the podcast, let people know we're back, and don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you for joining us for the All Things Ansys Podcast, episode 113. As a reminder, this podcast is not affiliated in any way with Ansys Inc., and the opinions expressed are those of the people on the show only and not of their current or former employers. For more information, visit www.padtinc.com/blog, and please share your thoughts and questions through an email to podcast@padtinc.com. See you next time.